KXLF Television and Ocellos proudly present Our Lady of the Rockies. Now, here are your hosts, Pat Carney and Guy Ocello.
Welcome to truly a remarkable story. Guy, the story of a man with a dream.
Man with a dream, and of course a dream about his wife and for his wife's, for her recovery, and now a dream for all of Butte and Anaconda and all the world for motherhood.
When we talk about this remarkable story, probably, Guy, the most impressive thing is the volunteer effort that went into it.
A total commitment by our community, men, women, and children. What can you say, Pat? It's a beautiful, beautiful feat.
And a beautiful feat as we end the year, the story of Bob O'Bill, his dream, Our Lady of the Rockies.
It began as a dream, a promise to fulfill an impossible dream.
My wife was sick one time, and I was quite concerned with her, and I just kind of made a promise that if she got well, I would build a little small statue, maybe 5 foot, in my garage, and that wouldn't have been any big thing. And I guess that's how it got started.
We were working down the Berkeley pit, me and Bob and Mike Cerise and Bill Dorr and Joe McCarthy, and Bob come over to the office one day. I was in the trailer over there, and he says, what do you think about putting a statue up on that mountain up there? And I just said, what's the matter, you crazy?
He come up to me and he said he was going to put a little statue on the hill, and he had to get a road to put up there. Want to know if I'd give him a hand. And I looked at him at first when he said put a little statue, and we talked it over and joked a little bit, and I said, sure, I'll give you a hand, not realizing what we're really getting into.
What they were getting into was an enormous task, building a road up the side of a mountain.
You just go, you do what you can do, then you wait for a while and go again.
At times there was rocks as big as the cat we had to move. It was a good thing a lot of it was downhill. Some days would make probably 10, 15 feet, other days maybe 100 feet.
Kind of like you weren't even building the statue. I mean, you'd go up there and you're doing a road, and sometimes you didn't even think about it, and then it seemed kind of weird. You'd go up there and, like Mike said, only do 10 or 15 feet of road a day, and see them guys pushing the cats, and you were working on pipes instead of a statue. It was kind of different.
The road was costly. Equipment breakdowns almost ate up all of the foundation's money.
Bob Koprovic and Joe Roberts started it off at the first meeting with $2,000, moving 3 big pieces of equipment on a mountain and using many gallons of fuel and lube oil, and the rest of it, $2,000, doesn't really go too far. We remember that we often used to laugh about the time we were down to $14 in the fund, and we had a broken down cat up there and needed parts for it.
Memorials started, and when those started, there were from all the little memorials we received. That's what kept us going.
By the summer of 1981, the road was completed. It was now time to decide where exactly to build the statue.
I never could figure out how come I picked that spot. I just looked up there and I thought it should go on to Saddle Rock.
Bob one day asked, he said, well, what do you think about the site? Are we far enough to the left? I said, we should go a little more to the right. I said, right underneath Lime Rock. And he looked at me and he said, what do you mean Lime Rock? And I said, well, look right above the statue to the right where it's going to be. He looked up and he said, geez, it looks just like Lime Rock. So every time after we went up, that's what we'd look for, Lime Rock on top.
Next, a platform had to be constructed from solid rock.
It was very difficult. It was the formation was cracked up real bad. You had to drill shorter holes. You couldn't drill long holes and blast the whole thing at once. You had to drill short rounds and then shoot it and then cat it off with Mike and then come in and drill it again. It was a big job.
As the mountain was being prepared, local artist John Mazzola designed a statue.
Joe Roberts took me up and he showed me the statue that had been built. And he asked me, he says, we'd like for you to build a 90-foot statue, that looks like this here statue. And I said, well, I guess so. I says, well, where's the prints and the grids and everything? And he said, well, there isn't any. So I looked at him kind of funny, and I said, well, I says, could you build a 90-foot statue looking at me? And he says, no. And I said, well, I can't build a 90-foot statue looking at that. I never sculptured nothing before.
We had the hands in the wrong place, and we just didn't feel that that was the way we wanted the statue to look.
Bob brought the little statue down, and he come into the welding shop, and he had two of them, and he says, I brought these down to show them to you. And I said, well, they're really nice, Bob, but what do you want me to do with them? And he says, I just thought maybe you'd like to see them. Well, when he started to leave, I says, here, you better take these with you. And he says, no. He says, leave them here, I'll pick them up later. And I said, well, they'll get broke. And he says, no. He says, that's okay, I'll pick them up later. So I set them on the shelf, and then as the days went by, I kept walking by and I kept looking at this little statue. And one day Joe walked in, and I says, you know, Joe, this should be the Lady of the Rockies.
And so the work began. First, a hand was built.
Built the first hand. And from that point on, he thought it was easy up until he reached the point where we were going to make the face. And that was when it became difficult.
Difficult indeed. It took 4 months to complete. Just before Christmas, 1983, the face made its first public appearance. It stood 14 feet high, weighing 1,500 pounds.
We feel that we've accomplished far more than anybody felt that we would. And we believe that when it's finally finished, they'll be all proud of it, believe me.
Slowly, the pieces were put together. The statue started to take shape. Plans called for 6 sections, a monument 90 feet tall, a statue weighing 60 tons.
One thing about it, it will be the turning point in the city of Butte when we turn the lights on.
The statue was nearly completed. It was time to figure out a base on top of the mountain.
He asked me how we should approach putting a foundation under it. I says, first off, you better get some engineer to design it. So we've got a schedule to go by, or not exactly a schedule, but some plans to go by. And Erect said, well, they approached different engineers, but it was too costly. And so I suggested, why don't you try to get somebody that's retired from the company? And I mentioned a couple names, Earl Durnford, Lauren Rail.
Durnford and Rail designed a circular formation.
We've put in 2 courses of rebar. These bars are all 40 foot long on the outsides, and they go into a 20-foot rod on the inside, and they're all circular bent to this form.
As the rebar was put into place, plans were developed to pour the concrete.
They've looked at every angle. There's just it wasn't feasible to bring in a cement truck, so they're putting their own aggregate plant out here.
1,000 bags of cement were hauled to the site. 2 cement trucks were brought in. Better than 100 men pitched in to pour 200 yards of concrete into the foundation of the statue.
It'll never have to be done again, Wendy. It's full of rebar, steel, and everything that you can think of to make it stay there forever.
The foundation was done. The statue almost completed. A major hurdle still had to be crossed: transportation.
I think the first time a chopper was mentioned is Mike Cerise mentioned it one time, and I don't know how Joe he started thinking about it, and Mike pushed it a little ways one time. It never went very far. Joe started pushing and he wouldn't let go. He's like a tiger.
I talked to Joe Monahan, and Joe took the ball from there and ran with it.
First of all, we identified where they were, which helicopters were big enough, where they were, and who could do it. After we went through all the operators, the International Helicopters Association and the Department of Defense to get specs, we recognized that it couldn't be done by the private sector. Okay? So then we were directed back to the Department of Defense. Decided that it was going to need bipartisan support from the House and the Senate and both parties. So we went to the senior senator from Montana and asked him to, John Melcher, and asked him to make the request of the chairman of the committee, Barry Goldwater, and we asked Congressman Williams on the House side to make the same request of his colleague Sonny Montgomery from Mississippi. Once we had it out there, it went through and reached 6 assistant secretaries of defense desk, 6 of the 26. They come back and say they'd like a legislative, they can't respond to a legislative request. They'd rather have a executive branch request from one of the executive branch offices. So through the good offices of the Montana Power here, Paul Smeckel and his people, we started through the Secretary of Interior, and at the same time, Mr. Roberts had sent a photograph through John Melcher's office to the president of the whole project in February. So we figured he's aware of what the project is. We may just send another request down to the White House and ask them to help us. If you're going to need an executive level request, the White House, you can't go any higher. At the same time that was happening, Warren Nelson from Nevada had driven through Butte, seen the statue in Joe's yard, went back to Nevada, called Joe and said that he was a personal friend of Senator Laxalt and that he had golfed with the president and that he was so moved by the statue and he was aware that the president had been asked for help that he was going to call him up and ask him to do it himself. White House never quite bit the bullet and decided they were going to make the lift, I think because they were concerned that the Department of Defense still had some questions with it. It bounced it right back to the Department of Defense. So it ends up back where we were. And who do we go back to? We go back to the well when we're in trouble, and we go back to Stan Kimmett. And we say, Stan, you know, you've been 15 years in the Pentagon. You've worked with Mike Mansfield. We need one more favor from you, you know. And we had talked to the senator and gone over a number of options that still existed on how we could make one last effort to have them explain to us if they were going to do it or not and why not. That's all we wanted from him, so we could get on with it, because it was going up. If Joe had to pack it on his back, it's going up, see. So the senator and his final option was to put some pressure on this assistant secretary that was up to be nominated to be the next secretary of the Air Force. Stan buttonholed him at a Washington function one night and told him that the senator from Montana was a little concerned about his nomination because of a number of other concerns. He was a little concerned that if the gentleman couldn't find one helicopter, how was he going to run the Air Force? So he didn't seem too concerned about it because he felt comfortable with the Republican Senate. But within a week, he went back and re-walked it through the Department of Defense and had it on Caspar Weinberger's desk. So I think he was a little concerned about the senator's, the fact that the senator might be looking at his nomination. So it ends up finally, in a matter of a week, 2 weeks, we end up getting a call that the Secretary of Defense, Caspar Weinberger, had called Barry Goldwater and asked him if he wanted the lift made. And Barry Goldwater indicated to him that we had done our homework, we'd done what he understood what we were trying to do and why. He agreed with it and thought that it was within the role and scope of the military, but that if it came down to a personal favor for the senator, that he shouldn't do it for that reason, but that if he wanted to do himself a favor, that he should do it for John Melcher, because if he didn't, John Melcher was going to be looking at his budget when the time came around. So it's ironic that the two people that ended up, three people that ended up getting it done back there were people that were right in our own backyard. Senator Melcher, Stan Kimmett, and this Joe Roberts.
Been a long, hard pull for Joe and myself. I was sitting here waiting, and he was back there working. And after 2 years of real struggles, he called me and told me it was finished.
I didn't call Joe first. My mother was the one that asked me to do it. So the first call I made was to my mother, and because the Assistant Secretary of Defense said asked me how I'd gotten involved in it. How in the world did you get involved in it? And I said my mother got me involved in it. Rose Monahan. He laughed and he said, you know, that fits right in with the project.
With the helicopter a go, the U.S. Army National Guard sent a crew to Butte. First, they went to inspect the mountaintop site. Next came a trip to Roberts Rocky Mountain Equipment Yard. The crew looked over the massive sections of the statue.
It's quite an awesome undertaking. We've got some very difficult obstacles to overcome because of the environment, and the size of the statue, the amount of weight, and the limitations of our aircraft. And we do have some options based upon our fuel load and waiting for the right wind and temperature combinations.
It really isn't going to be very easy because of the wind from the helicopter coming down on us.
Talking up to 150 miles an hour, depending on where you're standing in relation to the airplane and the amount of load we're carrying, but you know, we're talking about some severe wind chill factors.
It says that we should be able to put it up there, you know, but he only wants like 2 men up on each post instead of 4.
We've done projects that maybe are as difficult. We've installed some radio towers, some tall 30, 40-foot radio towers at military installations where we actually had to set the base onto 4 bolts. In other words, we had maybe a 1/16 of an inch variance.
December 17th, 1985, day 1 of the airlift. It began with a briefing.
The winds, you know, you asked about the winds before. The winds are actually coming from the north, and mainly on the site itself, the winds are blowing to the west. Because from the west to the east. What happens with the winds coming from the north is they hit that mountain and they swing around and they go right up through that.
So we're going to be facing Butte almost continuously.
That's right.
Facing right into town.
The airlift started with the skirting. All went well. Ground crews had no trouble at all lowering the piece down on top of the mountain.
The first piece wasn't too bad. It's the lightest piece of the whole statue, and that came in pretty good. We were concerned about the wind force when they bring in the pieces, Pat. The next piece coming up, if we get it today, is going to be the heaviest piece, and we'll see how the wind is and how it affects us in putting it together.
The skirting was put into place by a crane. It took about an hour. By then, a dense fog descended upon the mountain. Visibility was near zero. Workers gazed out at the skies, wondering if their job was over for the day.
We've been sitting up here for 3 or 4 hours now waiting for the second piece. But it's clearing now, and I think we'll be able to get it today. I hope we will, and then get it set, and we can tell a lot more after we get that piece set.
The fog finally cleared. Butte was visible again. It was now time to attempt the transport of the base.
Once again, it's liftoff. This is sort of what it must be like to cover a shuttle mission. Here we go again, so mountain men, just about on your way. Going up, up, up. I always like to see when it lifts off and a tremendous thrust from the chopper, and we should get some more wind.
The Army crew in their Sky Crane helicopter elected to fly the base over a set of railroad tracks. The area had no homes. It sat right in the heart of the community. The mountaintop was still filled with dense fog. Despite that, the chopper made it safely. Slowly, the base of Our Lady of the Rockies was lowered to its new home. In place, the chopper dropped the hook. The base was now at rest. Day 2 of the airlift. The winds howl up the side of the mountain. It would make placing the next section difficult.
And let's see, it's liftoff. Mountain crew, get ready. Got about a 10-minute wait. So once again, liftoff has been accomplished here at Roberts Rocky Mountain Equipment. This is the second base piece.
Once again, the Army crew flew the piece right over the tracks through the heart of Butte. All appeared normal. On top of the mountain, problems.
right as I speak to you, the second piece of the base of the statue is in the air, and because there's a wind problem up there, if you happen to be watching, or if you don't happen to be watching, the helicopter has flown way to the south now. So going a little different way, and they're going to go over the ridge and come back. So they will be facing west. They did that yesterday too, but there's a great deal of wind in one place up there.
As the second piece nears the site, the winds are too strong. The chopper crew decides to lower the piece down to the mountain. Workers rush to grab tag lines. The piece is lifted again. Once again, failure. The piece is put back down. The flight crew releases the hook.
We were hovering in winds that were gusting over 35 knots. That compounded our problems with trying to keep the load stable. But where we really ran into difficulty were the crew on the ground. They have this 17,000-pound piece of metal, this structure, and it's almost got airfoil surfaces on it. And those winds were not allowing them to turn it so that it would orient correctly, so we could lift it onto the statue itself.
The ground crew maneuvers a second piece with a crane. After a struggle, the second section is put into place.
This crane quite isn't big enough. That's why we weren't going to use the crane. So that's why we were having trouble. He couldn't really boom out far enough to swing it, and this is where we were having our trouble. Till we got it up high enough, you know, where we got it till we clear the other section. That's where we were hurting.
Later in the day, the airlift continues. This time, it is section number 3. It leaves the equipment yard without any problems. As it nears the mountaintop, anxious moments for those looking from down below.
Now, when you realize the size of that piece that's going up the mountain and the risk that those men are running and one thing or another, from the ground crew to pilots, everybody, it's enough to make you nervous.
On the mountaintop, excitement.
Everybody up here is smiling. We've got her into position and we're home free.
The piece goes imperfectly. All is okay. Our Lady is halfway completed. Day 3 of the airlift. It was time to move the hands. There was worry on the mountain.
We don't want to rotate, you know, like one set of guys going this way and one that. You know, pretty soon we're fighting each other. So which way are we going to rotate it?
Let's turn. Let's go clockwise.
All right. So all right, clockwise. So everybody can see what we're saying. When we turn it, no matter where it's going to be at, we're going to rotate and turn it this way to the right. So if the guys are on that side, the wind's blowing right. They're going to walk this way, and the people that are around here are going to walk to their right. So we're all going, you see, you understand?
You got it now?
Got it?
The hands got off the ground okay. Once in the air, though, problems.
This piece really swinging, going around and around. There must be some wind up there today.
The tagline, a piece of something just come flying by here. A piece of flighting, I believe it was. The statue is spinning really bad. The taglines are tangled. They're sitting the statue down on the top. The men on the bottom are not going to have a chance to get the tagline. We've had a problem up there, ladies and gentlemen.
Got a real problem here. The tag lines became tangled as they approached the Our Lady of the Rockies site. And without the tag lines, there's no setting down.
Progressing well as all the pieces had so far, and we was watching, and then you knew there was terrible trouble up on the mountain. And we saw the helicopter diving down, and your heart just dropped to the bottom. And we just kept watching. I says, Patty, I don't know what they're going to do.
But we saw the helicopter take a dive, so we both, just our hearts fell. We just couldn't figure out what happened.
Load started spinning because of the rotor wash of the helicopter. Okay, because it did spin like that, we had to stabilize it.
He just hit a vacuum there and powered out, and the hand caught on the side of it there. He couldn't control it. He didn't have enough power. He powered out because of the vacuum underneath. There was no wind. It's better in the wind because he can get the updraft on the thing.
It appeared the hand damaged the statue, did it?
The hand on the statue probably caught on the edge of this one. It didn't hurt what we've got up so far, but it depends where they dropped that thing down there. It didn't hurt it up here, just the hand caught, but down there, if they had to let it down on the hands, it'll probably tip forward and crinkle that whole front skin.
The helicopter's going to have to bring the piece back.
So we kept watching. I says, Patty, they're going to let her go.
Mom kept saying, well, they're going to set it down. I says, no, they can't set it down or else they're going to hurt her hands. I was so worried about her hands, and so then Mom says, well, they just set her down. I said, no, they can't. So we jumped in the car.
Patty is very particular about her appearance, but she went out there in her pajamas and a pair of sweats on her bottom. I wasn't really quite dressed myself either, and we rushed out there as fast as we could to see her hands.
The Robertsons were like many Butte citizens as the hands descended down the mountain, filled with terror, filled with concern.
Unfortunately, the helicopter uses so much fuel that it has to go back to the airport to refuel, and so they're having to set Our Lady of the Rockies down out by the airport, where I'm on my way now, somewhere by the Mormon church.
We felt really sad. We felt like that little piece was all by itself.
Back on the ground, the flight crew tried to figure out what went wrong.
We've been working up there all week in pretty strong winds, and we had a lull as we came up with this load. It's about 2,000 pounds lighter than the one we used yesterday. The lull and the winds didn't help us out too much. We needed that lift that the wind provides. We got right to about the limits of the aircraft and had to abort the landing.
Okay, now one thing that you pointed out in the truck is that normally you would have dropped your load, right?
Yes.
But you didn't.
In this situation, we had an option to either hang on to it or try and bring it down the hill. And at any point, we could have gotten rid of the load at any time along there. But it began to recover itself, and it built up some speed, and we were able to reduce the power requirements by descending down the face of the hill. And pretty soon we got it back in control.
For 2 days, there was pure excitement on this mountaintop. Workers were thrilled to be assembling a historic statue called Our Lady of the Rockies. That has all changed with the near tragedy. The excitement and thrills have been replaced by anxiety and worry. As the mountaintop workers got ready for another try, a special bond developed. The bond was prayer. The group was united as one.
We all came up here for our own reasons, and we're all dedicating ourselves to this project for whatever each of us has to offer. We're offering our skill, our ability that we've learned over the years, and we're offering it up that we get this project completed for the people that have involved us in this.
We thank everybody here, and we thank the one up above who brought us here. And let's bring this baby home to a happy conclusion, and we need her help to do that. We got the skill, she's got to help us.
It was time for a second try. The hands gone off the ground okay. As the piece neared the site, tensions mounted. Could trouble happen again? After 15 long, agonizing moments, the hook is released. Success! The hands are in place. The ground crew is elated.
We had some wind to help us, and that really helps us. We've learned that we've got to have wind to help that chopper. We didn't have near the wash from the chopper blades, and things went into position pretty fair, except we had a little hang up on the right hand catching on the wing up there. It was pretty exciting because we stopped the momentum of the swing right away. As they brought it into the site, the men grabbed the taglines, they walked it over. Then we had a problem with the touching the wing, and it wouldn't let it go completely around. The chopper crew seen that, they lifted it up a little bit more and swung it right off to the right. This section was hit just a little bit with the damage, and of course the hand was bandaged, you know, something like a cut on your finger. So, but other than that, it went beautiful today. We're elated with it. We all said a prayer up here, and believe me, that's what really helped, I think. That's what brought we got some wins, and it really helped us.
As the sun set, the excitement intensified. The dream of Our Lady of the Rockies was almost completed. Friday, December 20th, 1985. Day 4 of the airlift. Cars flocked to the bottom of the mountain. Would this be the day the dream comes true?
Chopper lifting very slowly now. This will be the 5th piece. This is sort of the bottom of the shoulders of Our Lady of the Rockies. Great excitement today because it's going to be beautiful picture taking, and after yesterday's near mishap, we know that things are going to go perfectly today. Lift off. Heads up, everybody. Heads up. Here they come. Time to run out of the courthouse and out of the Hennessy building and out of all those buildings uptown, Montana Fire. Stay alert because here they go. 4 chain lines today. One of them's already tangled before they've left, so I don't know what kind of a complication that might cause. I don't know why it didn't shake out, but maybe it will. The lady doing a couple of 360s right now as it leaves. There is a mark inside, so it can show which side when it gets to the top of the hill. So crew on the top. Our Lady has left, and she's just about to fly down the interstate and head for the tracks and head for the mountain. So good luck. I'm sure it's going to be successful.
All appeared okay as the piece headed toward the mountain. Then suddenly, the chopper disappears. Problems. A hydraulic leak is discovered in the helicopter. It must return back to the airport.
What kind of hydraulics was it? It's a hoist system for winch up and down, engine start system.
Wasn't
motor controls or anything?
No, it's not part. That's not a flight control system or anything like that, so that's no problem. It's just flight controls. Not flight controls, it's just hoist systems, so it's no problem at all. Yeah, he's going to put it down on that road. Well, that's good, so there won't be any snow on the bottom of that. That'll be great.
For the second time in 2 days, the flight crew had to set a piece down near the airport.
The flight engineer informed me that he had a leaking hydraulic fluid coming out. I bent around in my seat and I could see quite a red shower coming down from inside the aircraft. So we called him, let him know that we weren't going to proceed with it, and made our approach back to the airport with the load underneath. It was not a real critical problem, but we weren't going to take a malfunctioning aircraft over the top of the steelworkers.
Repairs were made quickly. It was time for a second try.
The accompanying helicopter right next to him, he tells him if there are any problems at all. So a safe liftoff once again for the 5th piece.
The 5th piece fits perfectly. On the mountaintop, pure excitement.
Right here. How do you feel? This went pretty well.
I'm very elated. I can't tell you how excited I am. That was the most beautiful piece of work I ever seen in my life. These guys are already up here working. We're getting ready for the other section. We want that real bad today, believe me. It's beautiful. It's a dream come true.
My heart was going to stop for a second or so there, but it was fantastic again as usual, wasn't it?
Well, this one went really smooth.
Really did go smooth. Everything seems to be going right, you know. It's a day that it's hard to believe as far as I'm concerned with Bob. And I don't think, I know I'll never see another one. It's just a little tough today, you know. This is 5 years. Greatest bunch of guys I ever met in my life.
A 5-year dream come true.
5-year dream, and it's finished now. Just one more pick, and that's going to go good too.
Workers prepared for the final section. They also prepared a surprise, an ironworkers tradition.
Topping out, it's called. It's an old ironworker tradition. The last piece of iron or the last piece of equipment that goes up has an American flag and a Christmas tree. And this has been a tradition ever since the ironworkers was formed. And that's what we call topping out, and that's what's going to be on the statue.
Welding's tough to get.
Down below in the community of Butte, a sense of pride, accomplishment, excitement.
I think it's pretty fantastic. I think it's good for Butte, good for the people. I think it's really good, and everybody's in good spirits, and it's a good time.
It's fantastic. I said we couldn't ask for anything nicer. It's a big boost for Butte.
I love it. Greatest thing to hit Butte in a long time.
Back on the mountaintop, the workers gathered together.
When they set the hands down on the site down there, my heart fell. I went down there to look at how much damage there was. When I come back on the mountain, I was sick, and I asked her, I says, why did you do this? You've done so much for this project. Why did you do this? And I couldn't understand it. And then, as I was going home, Jim told me that you all took hand in prayer. And then I knew. She had you all pray together. And this is the first time that this group has ever prayed together. And it's just, then I knew why that happened. If you look back 2 weeks ago, it was 20 below and nobody thought this project had a chance, including me. And here we are. We've got everything we've asked for all week long. We got weather we could work with, and it's just been beautiful. Those iron workers don't like to work in the wind, so they prayed for no wind yesterday, and we got that. They decided we needed wind. We prayed for that. We got wind in the afternoon. We got up this morning. We prayed we had wind. It's been perfect all day. So Mary, we just put the section with your heart in it the last time, and now we're going to put your head on and complete this project. So let's do it. Let's do it.
The head got off the ground with no trouble at all. As it flew over the city of Butte, the eyes looked back at a community. A community bonded as one. United in completing an impossible dream. As the head neared its final home, one could easily reflect back. Back to the dream. Back to the promise.
I made a promise that if she got well, I would build a little small statue.
Back to the men who were there from the very beginning.
What do you think about putting a statue up on that mountain up there? And I just said, what's the matter, you crazy?
First, they built a road.
You just go. You do what you can do. Then you wait for a while and go again.
Then came a platform.
It was kind of like you weren't even building the statue.
Underneath Lamb Rock.
Look right above the statue to the right where it's going to be. He looked up and he said, geez, it looks just like Lamb Rock.
Next came the statue.
Could you build a 90-foot statue looking at me? And he says, no.
First they built the hands. Later, a face. Slowly, the pieces were put together. Next came the foundation. Then it was time to get a helicopter.
My mother was the one that asked me to do it. So the first call I made was to my mother.
The airlift began with the skirting. Then the base. Next, trouble with the second piece.
Those winds were not allowing them to turn it so that it would orient correctly.
Excitement with the third section.
Everybody up here is smiling. We've got her into position and we're home free.
Terror with the fourth. Horror in the eyes of Butte citizens.
We both, our hearts fell. We just couldn't figure out what happened.
A moment of prayer.
We got the skill. She's got to help us.
A moment of accomplishment on a second try. Worry when hydraulic problems developed. Elation when the fifth piece fit. Pride as citizens looked up from down below.
I love it. Greatest thing to hit Butte in a long time.
All led to this moment. It was time to fulfill a dream.
The cable has dropped. That means the head is in place. Our Lady is complete.
Thanks for this project. Thanks for blood with Bill and Joe Roberts. And by God, thanks for nobody getting hurt. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Oh, Mark, we did it, guys. We did it. Oh, it's beautiful. You gotta look at it, Joe.
No,
oh, come on. You go. Shoot.
Walk on.
Look at that.
Oh, Jesus.
Isn't that something?
Goddamn.
Oh, I am so proud. Am I excited? Oh, the Butte, people of Butte ain't proud now. They should be. Oh, I am so proud of these people of Butte. The ones that I just can't, I can't express it. I am so thrilled, you know. Every one of them people down there should be proud. They're part of it. For every piece of iron I put in that, there were one person standing behind me. I am thrilled.
Was it a dream come true?
Oh, it was a beautiful dream come true. It was worth all 3 years or 6 years of it. It's fantastic. To think it finally at last has come true. Oh,
I can't hardly believe it, you know. It's hard to tell you. All these years, the years weren't that bad, but when you see all of these guys, you know, and gals too, for 5 years, they've done everything. I can't tell you how.
What does it tell you about the people of Butte?
Just what I knew. They're the greatest in the world. They've got hearts like you can't believe, and they love very, very deeply. Everything they do, they really love it, whatever it is.
I don't believe it.
Boy, she looks like $1 million.
She's beautiful. She's beautiful. She's just beautiful. It was worth it, Joyce. It was worth it.
Joyce. Because of you, Joyce. Yes, because of you. Yes.
Isn't she great?
You were the chosen one, Joyce. You were the chosen one.
My boy asked me one night when we come down, he says, "What do you get paid, Dad?" And I said, "The night the lights are turned on."
Tonight is paid.
Tonight's payday, Pat. Today's payday.
Bless us, Our Lady of the Rockies, and this land those peaks divide. May our hearts be like your arms, full of love and open wide. Give us strength in times of trouble. Give us faith in times of fear. When the dark is all around us, light our way and hold us near. Bless us, Our Lady of the Rockies, and this land those peaks divide. May our hearts be like your arms, full of love and open wide. Like a river ever flowing, each of us is born to share the joy in living is in giving. Teach us how and hear our prayer, Our Lady. Rise above for all eyes to see the peace and hope that you bring. us all one family. Give us one voice to sing. Bless us, Our Lady of the Rockies, and this land those peaks divide. May our hearts be like your arms, full of love and open wide.
Electrifying. Guy, what a remarkable story.
Pat, very few people get to view history, and the people in Butte and Anaconda, and certainly you and I, have watched history in the making.
There's no question about that. You know, over the past 4 years, Ocello's has brought you a program on New Year's Eve called The City of Champions, and we intend to show that program again in January. But truly, Guy, when you talk about a city of champions, this is the ultimate test of a community, to put a project together that no one thought could be done. And truly, Butte can call itself the City of Champions for this.
No question. And Pat, most cities, I think, have a lot of brick and mortar in them, but our city and the city of Anaconda certainly are filled with people who have deep faith in themselves and in their sense of accomplishment.
A year ago when we brought you the City of Champions, Guy, you remarked saying that the entire year of 1985 would revolve around Our Lady of the Rockies. And truly a lot of things happened in 1985. And at the end of the year, I think most people said, yes, the entire year revolved around this project.
Around this project, and look at the economic change in our city, the positiveness of what's happening in this city. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
What a way to end the year.
And Pat, to you and all our viewers out there from KXLF TV and from Ocello's, a very happy and prosperous new year.
Guy, one worker up here remarked that this was truly the job of a lifetime. It was also the danger of a lifetime. And for all of us, or many of us, it was really the story of a lifetime. Good night.
Good night.
Bless us, Our Lady of the Rockies, and this land those peaks divide. May our hearts be like your arms, full of love and open wide. Give us strength in times of trouble. Give us faith in times of fear. When the dark is all around us, light our way and hold us near. Bless us, Our Lady of the Rockies, and this land those peaks divide. May our hearts be like yours.